More than a century of vehicle production in Luton will end in April. Vauxhall is closing its van-making factory where 1,600 people work. Some will be able to relocate to Ellesmere Port in Cheshire, where production of all electric vans will be concentrated. The company said the job losses would make it more efficient at meeting the government's electric vehicle target. Making petrol and diesel vans will shift abroad, probably to France.
They've been working around the clock at Luton in recent months, but this afternoon an unexpected announcement brought production lines to a halt. 120 years of vehicle manufacturing here appears to be coming to an end.
How are you feeling?
Angry, absolutely angry. This is a decision that does not need to be made. And it's an absolute slap in the face for the 1,500 workers inside the plant who have invested a lot of time, effort and dedication to the work that they do.
ITV News has seen a copy of the announcement that was read out to workers at lunchtime. Stellantis told them it proposes to move van production from Luton to its Ellesmere Port factory from 2026 and that production at Luton would cease next summer. The company said it realises the proposal will have come as a surprise and workers were told they were not required to work for the remainder of the shift. The business secretary was giving evidence to MPs as the news broke. Jonathan Reynolds said he did what he could to save Luton.
We were told this morning that the decision has been made to rationalise operations at Ellesmere Port is, to be frank, a better outcome than it could have been because Stellantis has significant overcapacity, you will know, across this European footprint, so we could have lost those two key lines to a different factory. I wouldn't want to give any other impression than I believe this is a very difficult day for people in Luton.
Stellantis says government policy played a significant part in its decision. 22% of all the Vauxhall cars it sells in the UK this year have to be battery powered. The company says the demand for electric vehicles isn't there. To hit that target, it has cut prices and its profits. And Stellantis is not alone. Last week, Ford announced plans to scale back its operations. 4,000 jobs will go in Europe, 800 of them in the UK. There's pressure on the government to respond.
There are no incentives anymore for people to go out and buy electric vehicles, and also the charging infrastructure is not being kind of brought out quick enough. So if the government wants a very rapid take-up of electric vehicles, it's got to help consumers make that journey, and not enough is being done.
The government says it will fast-track a consultation on what to do next, but that doesn't sound like much of a plan. And any change to the rules on electric vehicle sales may not come fast enough to save Luton.
OK, Joel, so we've seen with the recent budget that businesses often have a view on government policy. To what extent do you think Vauxhall's decision today was genuinely about government policy, and to what extent was it possibly about other things too?
Well, we should remember that Stellantis, which owns Vauxhall, did warn that it would close one or both of its UK factories 5 months ago unless the government did more to incentivise the sales of electric vehicles here. So, turns out, wasn't bluffing. But I have been speaking to someone who was familiar with the talks that have been taking place between the company and ministers. And they say Stellantis intended to do this all along. It's absolutely clear on that. The point they make is that Stellantis has more car factories across Europe than it needs. And in the UK, by producing everything from one site with fewer workers, it can produce the same amount of vans for much less. The business case was pretty compelling. But the same source does say that the government's zero emissions vehicles mandate is a huge problem. Now, the mandate was introduced last year. It requires 22% of all new car sales in the United Kingdom to be battery-powered vehicles this year. As things stand, VW, Toyota, Ford, Nissan, Renault and Jaguar Land Rover are all on target to miss that target. And as a result, the industry says they and other car makers will have to pay fines of, get this, £1.8 billion. That's jaw-dropping. Now, next year, the target ratchets up to 28%, and in theory, reaches 100% in 6 years' time, because the government, Paul, says it will bring forward a ban on the sale of all petrol and diesel cars to 2030. Now, this scheme was put together at a time when money was cheap to borrow and EV sales were booming, frankly. Neither of those things is true today. The business secretary has been at an annual dinner of the car industry this evening. He told executives the scheme is not working as envisaged and will be reviewed. The industry says profitability and viability are in jeopardy and jobs are on the line.
All right, Joel, particularly worrying night for those workers in Luton, of course. Thank you very much indeed.